Good morning to all my students. Today I am going to discuss a very important topic with all of you, and I hope that you all are going to like my lecture. So today we are going to discuss actually what is negative liberty and what is positive liberty. So this is going to be a very interesting topic. So since I have taught my students in the class that what is actually the negative and positive liberty, so we are going to discuss these both very important trajectories and ideas. First we are going to discuss what is negative liberty. The negative liberty, for example, the Berlin says, over what area I master. So this is a very catchy type of phrase, over what area am I master. And he further actually mentions, let me just explain to all of you what he says, or what area I am master. Berlin further states, if I am prevented by others from doing what I could otherwise do, I am to that degree unfree. And if this area is contracted by other men beyond a certain minimum, I can be described as being coerced, or it may be enslaved. So here we are getting the idea that actually, according to Berlin, he says that if my freedom is prevented by others, so if I am not allowed to do things properly, if I am not allowed to enjoy my liberty, and there could be a lot of constraints, a lot of limitations, or preventions created by other people, then definitely it is a very problematic phenomena, and then it means that I am not free. That means I am unfree. So negative liberty is actually it is based on two important statements which I am going to explain to you. The first statement is that each one knows own interest best, because since we are all human beings, and we are all humans, homo sapiens, and God has given us, God has blessed us with intelligence, with reason, and therefore we believe that all human beings are rational animals, and they have this rationality, and they can differentiate what is good and what is bad for them, and therefore it is not good if we create a lot of limitations, a lot of preventions and over them, and that may hinder their freedom, their liberty. And therefore according to the scholars of who supports the negative liberty, they believe that each one knows own interest best. So this is the first statement, this is the first axiom on which the negative liberty is consisted on. The first is that each one knows own interest best, because all men are actually rational beings, and therefore they know, each of us knows the best, his own interest in a best manner. So the second point, the second statement is actually the state has a limited role to play. State cannot decide the ends and purposes for the individual. So this is also a very important statement, that since everyone knows his interest, so therefore he should be free to enjoy his liberty, his freedom, and but so therefore state cannot have a lot of constraints, a lot of limitations, and the state actually it does not know what is the state cannot decide the end and purpose of for the individual, for the people. So it should not be so according to the scholars who supports negative liberty, they believe that the state should not it should have a limited role, state should have a minimal role, and the state cannot decide the ends and purposes of the for the individual. Okay, so this is the second statement of the negative liberty. So these are the two statements on which the negative liberty is consisted on. So the second, according to let me just illustrate and elucidate the point of view, how the scholars who supports the negative liberty, they looked at the negative liberty concept. First, I am going to discuss the Friedrich Hayek. He talks about individual freedom as the state in which a man is subject to coercion by arbitrary will of another. So, according to Friedrich Hayek, he says that he talks about individual freedom, and he says that state in which a man is subject to coercion by arbitrary will of another person. So, the man should not become the subject of coercion, where there is the domination or there is a force of the power is used by another person, and one is forced to do the things, and so that is not good. Or somebody is actually there may be an arbitrary authority which is actually preventing someone to not perform his activities, not to enjoy his liberty and freedom. And so, according to Friedrich Hayek, freedom as the state in which a man is not subjected to coercion by arbitrary will of another. So, actually, he's talking about that man should be free and he should not have any sort of constraints and of coercion, and also he should not be influenced by arbitrary will of another person. So these are the words of the Friedrich Hayek. The another scholar actually is the Robert Nozick. He is also supporting the negative liberty concept, and he says, the primary threat to liberty is the imposition of obligations to which one has not consented. So he makes a lot of sense that Robert Nozick makes a lot of sense when he says the actual threat, the main threat to the liberty of individual, the liberty of people is actually once the someone is actually imposing his or her obligations to which one has not consented at all. So one has not given his consent or her consent, and somebody is trying to impose his or her obligations on another individual or other people. So that is totally wrong. And therefore Robert Nozick says, and this is the biggest threat, this is the major threat, or this is the primary threat, or to the liberty of individual. That means where actually some of the people may impose their obligations to which one has not consented. So this is the another, he's the another scholar, I mean here, Robert Nozick. He says that what we see actually the primary threat to liberty is the imposition of obligation to which one has not consented. Then you see there are a number of scholars who actually supports the negative liberty. For example, the Adam Smith, Jeremy Bentham, James Mill, Herbert Spencer, and there can be many others. So now let's come. So when we so what we are getting actually the negative liberty is actually why we are talking about more freedom to individuals, more freedom to people. There should not be too much limitations, too much constraints. Every individual should be free to perform his activity, to enjoy his liberty, and therefore, so far as his personality development is concerned, so far as his overall activities are concerned. So therefore, and there should be very minimal interference, very less interference when it comes to the liberty of the people, liberty of the individuals. And therefore what we have seen, the statements given by Robert Nozick as well as the Friedrich Hayek. Even we have seen also the two the important statements and axioms on which the negative liberty is based. That is, one is each one knows own interest best. Since all human beings are rational animals, they have this rational thinking. Therefore they know their own interest best. Therefore they should not be guided or directed or influenced or coerced by any other authority when it comes to their liberty. And the second point is the state has a limited role to play. When we see the negative liberty scholars, they also believe that state must have a limited role to play when it comes to the liberty of individuals, and therefore they say that state cannot decide the ends and purposes of the individual. So these are the very important trajectories, the very important statements and ideas on which the negative liberty is consistent. on. Then now let's go move on and let's discuss the positive point of liberty. What is the positive point of liberty? Is actually each man has higher self and lower self. So there, every human being has a higher self as well as a lower self, and their man. So from here, the positive liberty can be proceed. We can proceed in order to explain, in order to illustrate the positive concept of liberty is actually from the point of view, since every man has the higher self as well as lower self, and the main point is that this higher self, the rational self, higher self means here the rational self, should attain the mastery over the lower self. So that this lower self, which is there in all human beings, and as well as higher self, the lower self must the higher self must have the mastery over the lower self, and this is the crux of the theory. And where this is the same thing, the where from the theory actually proceeds or starts. And for an individual and people to be liberated in understanding the positive liberty. So positive liberty is open to the idea of directing individual understand either by law or by elite. So what we see actually when we want to discuss the positive concept of liberty, and from the those scholars point of view who actually supports the idea of positive liberty, they believe that man is not free. Man the liberty, when it comes to the liberty, so liberty is not entirely licensed. You are not entirely free. So rather there are limitations, there are constraints. You cannot enjoy the liberty to any extent. So what is important, there is a law which is going to regulate you, and because law will tell you what to do and what not to do. And then another point of view is the elite. The elite class means our leaders. I mean our elders, or our leaders, who guide us, especially. So therefore, these two are the important, ideas in order to understand, in order to enjoy our positive liberty. So according to the scholars of those who support the positive liberty concept, as long as the law directs the individual towards rational ends, it liberates the individual rather than oppresses the individual personality. So what we see here actually, when the law is taking its course, or when the law is actually guiding the human beings, it is not some sort of operation. Rather, the laws or those laws are actually liberating the people. They are liberating the people. They are not oppressing them, and they are not oppressing the individuals, rather than they are liberating the individual personalities. And therefore, when we see some of the very great exponents of the concept of positive liberty is actually the Rousseau. Rousseau is the votary of positive liberty. He is the main exponent, and there are many others which I am going to tell you. And he says that he states that liberty is in obedience to moral law. He is also a great believer in law. He says that the individual's liberty must be, it is in obedience to the moral law. Okay, so he also says that the moral law plays a very important role, and every person, every individual must obey to the moral law. The positive liberty, the reason, also there is a Herbert Marcuse, Herbert Marcuse says, he also favors the positive concept of liberty, because he is given the reason that the working classes, they are incapable of seeing their true ends. So according to Herbert Marcuse, he says he believes that the working classes cannot achieve their true ends, and therefore they need a proper guidance, they need a proper direction given by the elite class, the revolutionary leaders, okay, revolutionary elites, okay. So to be directed towards a liberation by the revolutionary elite. So this is the point of view given by Herbert Marcuse. Here you can see the role of elite becomes very important, in order to direct, in order to guide, the working class towards their, towards their desired goal, which is liberation, to be directed towards the liberation by the revolutionary elite. So this is the point of view of the Herbert Marcuse, who is the scholar. And then there is another point, another scholar. His name is J.S. Mill, John Stott Mill. He says that he also favored, the state intervention to regulate the laissez-faire economy, because in laissez-faire economy, which is giving too much liberty to the the tiny ones, the to the chosen ones and the selected ones, who are actually controlling a lot of wealth, and therefore they deprive the rest others, especially the working classes. And therefore, in order to regulate this laissez-faire economy, to protect the rights of the the working classes, so the property owners must be there must be an intervention, state intervention, in order to regulate them. And because they are actually depriving the working classes. Then the Losky, who is also the supporting this positive concept of liberty, he says property was not absolute. So when it comes to the right to property, it was not absolute, and therefore he says that state must secure the welfare of all. So state must secure welfare of all the people. This is the actually the intention and the point of view of the Lasky. Okay. Then there is a T.H. Green, who also believes that state must create those conditions under which men could effectively exercise their moral freedom. So he was also actually in the T.H. Green is also in favor of state intervention and state's control. That state has the a lot of role to play in order to create those conditions under which men could effectively exercise their moral freedom. So this was all about a positive liberty concept, and I hope that I have explained it to all of you about what is the difference and what is the distinction between the negative and positive concept of liberty. And I hope it is clear now. And stay blessed. See you next time. And have a nice time. Take care of yourself.